Alright guys, you asked for it, so let's talk about it. The Merchant's Guild versus the Circle of Fortune. Which one is better? I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible because there's so many things to go into on each one. So, there's not a defined answer on which one is better for everyone, but I can definitely tell you there is one that is better for you. The short answer is, if you want the best of the best items and you are willing to put in a ton of hours, I'm talking about the top 1% of a 1% of an action RPG player, if that's you, I would suggest the Merchant's Guild. Now, with Circle of Fortune, you are going to be able to progress a lot faster than the Merchant's Guild, and that is because you have easier access to just getting exalts, legendaries, legendary potential a lot earlier on, as well as getting more XP and more gold earlier on. However, if you still need a very specific item with 4 legendary potential, which is basically an item that has the ability to combine a unique item and a exalted item into one. If you want the best of the best, getting the item that you need with 4 legendary potential is going to be incredibly difficult. But it is not required at all to be able to progress in the game. You can get 1,000 corruption in the monoliths and you could still play without having every single piece of gear legendary potential out. It's just that it makes it so much easier to be able to just select the item that you want and purchase it. Now, your bottle cap is going to be actually the gold, not necessarily this whole like favor thing that you're going to be consistently spending. So, let's go over the Merchant's Guild first, and I'll go over like the main thing. But the basic thing with both of these is Circle of Fortune will let you advance faster overall in the grand scheme of things. However, if you want to min-max and get the best of the best, Merchant's Guild is going to be for you. So if you're a top 1% action RPG player, I would recommend the Merchant's Guild. And there's another bonus with Merchant's Guild. If you're someone that's like, I don't want to mess with the loot filter, I would probably recommend Merchant's Guild, because Circle of Fortune, everything that you get, it's going to drop. So if you don't have a loot filter, unless you're going to manually look at every single item, which I know there are people out there that do that, it's going to be much easier if you just select Merchant's Guild. That's like my biggest suggestion at the start of the video, just to kind of give you guys a blanket info on this without getting too deep into each one, but we'll go briefly into each one in terms of the pros and the cons. But Merchant's Guild, again, you can just pick out any item that you want, and that's like the biggest thing. But you can't just go select Merchant's Guild and then just be like, okay, I'm just going to buy the item. They each have this sort of progression thing where you're going to have to rank them up by just killing monsters or interacting with the mechanics of either one. But let's go over the Merchant's Guild first. So, as far as the progression goes, early on, if you need to get a very, like, common unique, just a unique item, there are some really great items earlier on to get, like, 100% crit. Like, Peak of the Mountain is excellent. There's items that can, like, quadruple your DPS, really easy with just some sort of unique for any build. And if you really need some very specific thing, it's really good to join the Merchant's Guild earlier on. But another thing I want to mention, depending on which one you choose, you can't really flip-flop and have items from both of them. You'll see that this item over here has on the very bottom right corner where it says rank 6, well, these can't be traded. You can see every item that I've gotten is actually from the Merchant's Guild, so I've bought it. You cannot flip items. If your mindset was the same as mine, which was, oh, I'm just going to join Circle of Fortune and gain all these bonuses to get all of these, you know, awesome rewards where, like, I get, like, double items. Affix are 50% more likely to be exalted. Oh, this just gets way better loot, right? And then I was going to go ahead and max this one out, get my character as far as I can, and then just swap over. Doesn't work like that. The items are going to be tagged if they drop from the Circle of Fortune, or if they're going to be something that are purchased from the Bazaar. You can't flip items, by the way, which is kind of a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's an earlier game. People might use bots or whatever. If you've ever played Path of Exile and you list something too cheap, you get like 1,000 messages instantly, and you know, well, it's probably too cheap. But in this game, well, a lot of people will actually sell a lot of things for 0 gold. And the reason why, especially earlier on, and still, there's actually really good items for 0 gold. And the reason why is because to rank up in the Merchant's Guild, you literally just need to list the item. It doesn't even need to sell. This favor over here, which is basically the same on Circle of Fortune over here, if we just click over here, you'll gain favor by just kind of playing the game whenever you just slay enemies or you complete quests. It's not something you have to worry about too much. Like this currency, it does matter, but the thing in the Merchant's Guild that matters is actually gold, not this. Okay, that's important. If you list items, it's going to cost favor. If you buy items, it's going to cost favor, but it's like really cheap. You can get some of the best stuff. Like if I was to look at the Peak of the Mountain, in just like an hour-ish, I could farm up like the currency required. Now, as you progress and you go into legendary potential, this definitely matters. It depends on the item, but like the Peak of the Mountain, it's going to be a very, very expensive item. You see there's not even that many listed in terms of legendary potential of 4. I mean, these items, I mean, there's listings for like hundreds of millions and billions even. It's crazy how much certain things cost. But like 28,000, this requires you to be rank 8. Rank 8 is pretty much where you need to be, and it does take an extreme amount of time. Like, if you're looking just to gear up, and I would say the average player is probably going to enjoy the Circle of Fortune much more than the Merchant's Guild. But as far as the pros go, in the Merchant's Guild, if you want 4 legendary potential, and if you want the best of the best, that's the biggest pro. And on top of that, knowing that you're always going to be able to progress, no matter what, like every single time I hop on Last Epoch and I'm playing the game, I know that I'm building up my gold, I'm building up my little favor, although don't worry too much about acquiring this as a bottleneck. It's basically gold. I'm always working towards it. And if you ever played Diablo 4, like it's like the uber uniques of, you know, Circle of Fortune. If you need a very specific item and you need it to be 4 legendary potential, I mean, that's just asking for a very, very, very incredibly rare drop. So you'll have to factor that in, and that's kind of the biggest pro of the Merchant's Guild. The cons of the Merchant's Guild, though, I would say it does take a lot longer to actually get everything. Now, another huge con on this, if you've ever played Path of Exile or any game that has some sort of like trade website or something, the thing that is really terrible with price tracking items, like let's say I wanted to see like, you know, I just got like these boots. What are these boots worth? Well, I don't know. Is there a website? Is there like a price checker tool? At the moment, no. There's no like PoE Awaken trade on this. So basically, I don't have like a third-party tool to really utilize yet. I'm sure eventually it may come out, or they'll just make this auction house much better. But if I want to check the price of these boots, well, I gotta walk over, I gotta look at, okay, well, I gotta walk over to the boots. Now, this one's not too bad because it's right there, but if I'm playing the, you know, Falconer, and I gotta go check something that's a bow, I gotta walk way over here, and I gotta go, okay, well, what is this one? Let's say, I just got this unique. Also, the trade interface is, I would say, it's usable, but the fact that you can't search, like, fuzzy stats, or this is more like in the terms of like PoE stuff, where like I'm gonna list like 10 different things. I just need to get 4 out of these 10. Just give me those. It doesn't work like that. You just search for the exact affix. So like, so in bow, I'd say maybe I want like bow damage, maybe I want health recovery on kill, and then minion whatever, and then I go okay, search. And you have to know, you know, how many prefixes and suffixes are you putting in, and also sealed affixes don't even appear on here. There's a lot of things that are just like bad in terms of its design. Also, this interface is terrible. I don't know why you can't just have this whole more thing always permanently up, and it's super annoying to have to go and check every single thing. And then on top of that, you have the ability to search for like open prefix, open suffix, but if you're looking for very specific ones, like, oh, I need something to have tier 6, which is like an exalted one, that's searching for multiple. So that is a huge thing with this that's very annoying. Like, you can't select individual ones, you can't select certain like roles. You can select, I want a tier 5 of a certain thing, but you can't search for like, let's say I wanted specifically this item over here to have a certain amount of increased bow damage, because this rolls from 70 to 105. That's a pretty big roll on a tier 5, and I'm not able to search that exact finite thing like you would with like the Path of Exile search. So that is a huge difference in the quality of life. But is it usable? Yes. And pretty much at this point, I would say my character is relatively min-max without, of course, getting legendary potential of 4. And this takes an incredible amount of time to actually go all the way through. But there's a lot of uniques in the game where, again, you could like quadruple your DPS really early on, or get way more survivability. So it is really great for just like, oh, I just need to get like unique items. Like, don't worry about this. The thing that takes forever is specifically getting to 7 and 8. These take an incredible amount of time, and most people will probably be about level 100-ish, because like you can see, I play the game quite a bit, and I've obviously been engaged in it because I don't really have a bunch of favor, because some people were sitting there with a bunch of favor. They're like, oh, what am I supposed to do with it? And, well, you need to actually engage with the mechanic if you want to rank up. But if you want to get like unique items, I would say that's fine. Getting legendary and legendary items don't really matter too much, because you can literally buy an exalted item, buy a unique item, and just slam it yourself together. It's not really that big of a deal. So I would say getting to your character is probably going to be about level 100 before you even get to that point. And this game does take a really long time to get to 100. Most people will probably get to about like 95-ish, and they're going to have enough time. Like, most people don't do a GR 150 in Diablo 3, or like, if I'm using Path of Exile terms, like, are they going to go do Simulacrum max waves? No, most people just don't get to that point, right? So I want to say that you can still have a lot of fun regardless of which one you do choose. And that's what I wanted to cover for the Merchant's Guild. So I make this video not like an hour long because there is more stuff that we can get into, but that's the basics of it. So let's go over the Circle of Fortune, why you'd want to choose that one. So Merchant's Guild, basically the top 1% of the 1%, and on top of that, earlier on, getting a very specific unique. That's like the pros right now. And I want to say there's more in the future for this because they're probably going to add a lot more quality of life to the auction house in the future. Specifically, the interface definitely needs a lot of work, and I think that that would be something that would make it much better. But the Circle of Fortune will definitely advance way faster because you're just going to get way more loot. And that is the biggest thing with this. So how does this one work? So this one's a lot different. It's not like you're just going to kill things and you're going to get points and then you're going to rank up and not do really anything outside of that, as in you do need to have a loot filter for this, and you do need to kind of like buy these little lenses, and this is actually kind of important. We're going to go visit the observatory and I'll kind of explain it. But this is like the little market here, and like I said, it is kind of frustrating that like if I want to go like look at idols, I have to go over here. If I want to look at a certain thing, I just wish that it was all built into the interface, as in like I could open up the gloves right here and then just select gloves, armor, boots. Like, it's just quality of life in here is not what I would consider like the best. But we're here to talk about the Circle of Fortune now in this part. So what are the pros of the Circle of Fortune? Let's go to the observatory right now. And the main thing is that you get more gold XP and it's way faster. The cons though is you have to get everything and you have to have a loot filter. That's either building it yourself, but there's lots of different websites, whether you're on Max Roll, Icy Veins, or like I've even shared my loot filter with you guys. But my loot filter is also not for just my gear, but also gear that I want to sell, or potentially it could be gear for other characters. So don't limit yourself when you are playing the Circle of Fortune. Don't think, oh, I'm playing the Circle of Fortune, I only want gear for my character, unless you never plan to swap builds, right? Because there's a really cool other build that involves using like melee damage that I want to try out with the Falconer as well. It basically, it's like a Falcon Punch build, and it's really cool. And I want to try that out later, so I'm going to have to adjust my loot filter if I, wanted to go ahead and change to that. So I'm still looking out for it, so I already got actually the gloves already, because a lot of the uniques and set items are pretty much garbage, but I do want to try them out anyways. So the NPC over here, you can talk to and you can like buy items, but the main thing that you're going to be actually buying are these legends. Now, if you want to swap faction, you have to actually unequip all the items, so you can't like you can't run items from both. I wish you could, but that would actually break the purpose of it anyways, because people would all go Circle of Fortune, get to max level, and then they would swap. That's exactly how it would go. Now, there's these things called lenses, and let me see if I can find one for you guys. I have like a tab that I'll bring out. Okay, so you'll use the currency to buy these lenses, and what you do is you go up to these telescopes, which we can't interact because we swapped. But if you do want to swap, you have to unequip all of your gear. That includes all of the idols, everything that drops from this mechanic. So as far as the Merchant's Guild, it's basically the items like rarity, but it doesn't really matter too much. Once you hit like 8, you're pretty much buying whatever you want in the entirety of the game. Now, with the Circle of Fortune, you're just getting more rewards. Like T7 affixes are quite rare, just in general, and unfortunately, if it doesn't roll for your class, you can't really utilize it, right? Unless you plan to make, multiple different classes. But there are some items and things that are going to be super, super amazing for you to maybe get inspired to create more characters. And I actually think that that's a good thing in the game for creativity. I mean, there's things like when a set item would drop, it drops the whole set instead. That's actually pretty exciting, right? Now, most of the sets in this game aren't very good, though, I'm going to be honest, because once I saw this, I was like, oh, this is going to be so good for a content creator, because I'm going to make, a build with this, a build with this. But this is not Diablo 3, take a 6-piece set and you're going to be, blasting through the game. But as far as the rewards here, I'll kind of explain what this looks like, because I have another tab, like I said, and I'll show you guys. But, like, basically, it's a bunch more rewards, and there's one where, like, whenever you complete the thing, you get, like, a chance for the monoliths to get double rewards. The XP one, the gold one, all of this stuff can actually add up. Gold almost becomes kind of worthless. However, you can swap later, and if you have a bunch of gold, that will actually give you kind of a purpose. I think you could do like Arbor, and that could be a gold sink, but I think it might be smarter. And this could still be a valid strategy, because gold is not locked to Circle of Fortune, even if you're getting more of the gold rewards. So I was thinking that, like, if you really wanted to min-max, the strategy that would take an extreme amount of time, I'm just going to warn you guys as heads up, but the strategy would probably be to go Circle of Fortune, min-max out, get to level 100 because you have extra XP and everything, because you get the double monolith on the book rewards. That's massive. So you get all of your rewards, and then you swap when you have a bunch of gold because you're just saving your gold. You're not, interacting and buying a bunch of stuff for, hundreds or millions of gold. So you'll have more stuff, and you're going to have potentially better gear at the end of the day because you're going to be able to progress a lot faster because it's easier to max this one out than the other one. That's something that definitely has been said by other content creators as well, because I was like, dude, am I doing something wrong? It takes way too long. And I was asking people from the stream, where are you guys at right now in the Merchants Guild? What level are you? And people are 90 plus and they can't buy unique items with legendary potential still. So in the Circle of Fortune, I mean, you can get it really earlier on. It's just basically, they just drop. And there's also a thing where the items at tier 6, they already have legendary potential. So in order for me to get the legendary potential on the items, I have to go to 8. Basically, at 6 compared to 8 is a massive difference. But on top of that, getting T7s is a big difference. This is actually something, I actually should bring this up. This is actually a good part of the video, too. That let me go open up the Max Roll Last Epoch Planner. And I want to show you guys the difference between a tier 6 and a tier 7. Tier 7 is actually incredibly rare for most people, especially pre-level 100, because you're not going to be able to do the very high corruption. So if I was to take the amount of decks that I'm getting on it, this is on the highest on a tier 5 would be 11 to 12. And then we go to tier 6, we can go from 15 to 18. But then from tier 6 to 7, that's 20 to 24. That is a massive difference between tier 5 and tier 7. I mean, that's literally double the stats. That is huge, especially because most Falconer builds, or most classes in general, you don't want your class's main stat, right? So it's a massive, massive difference. So that being, able to be more seen is good, but at the end of the day, a T7, health regen for a lot of classes just might be garbage, right? You don't want that stat. So even though you're seeing it more often, you still need a loot filter to kind of engage with it. But at the end of the day, the main thing that you're trying to do with this is buy those lenses, which I showed you, and you're going to socket these in. Basically, these have these little sockets. I'm going to go ahead and go over the little picture I wanted to go and show you guys. So how this works, because I can't just swap to it without deleting all my currency and unequipping everything, because it's kind of annoying, but they do that on purpose, so you can't just flip-flop between them. So when you click on the telescope, this is what it looks like. So you have a certain amount of favor, and you can spend your currency to re-roll. So what these are, you have some sort of thing that you need to do, whether it's to use like a key, whether it's to kill rare monsters, kill a certain boss, and it does kind of make you go around the map, and it kind of makes you have a little bit more fun with the game versus slamming down monoliths consistently. But you have some sort of condition where you need to do something. Like this is Soulfire Bastion Dungeon, and then there's like an event over there. But the reward is 9 rare armors. It could be 9 legendary armor. Well, actually, unique armor is what I should say, because legendary is different in this game. But uniques, it could be exalted armor, and like let's say I really need a chest piece upgrade. I'm gonna go ahead and roll that one. And let's say I really needed a brand new weapon, like I need a new bow. I would go ahead and select, the exalted bows or whatever the case may be. And if I don't like what's on here, I remember I have to select these. So if I don't like the items that are showing up, I can hit reroll, and it's going to cost some currency. I can keep on rerolling. And then this is where the lenses come in, which I was showing you guys over here, where you socket them in. And as you progress, you're going to get more and more sockets. You can see they kind of unlock as you rank up in the thing. Now, another thing that is quite important over here is you can only hold so many. It's not really that big of a deal, but the whole goal is like you're going to be maxing out and then try to slam out all the events at once, just in case if you have any overlaps. It's basically like taking a bunch of side quests. Think of it kind of like that. And you can see these little things where you can have extra chance to find a very specific thing. So that's pretty much it. And there's a bunch of different ones, and some of these will rank up as you progress. So there's a bunch of these, again, lenses, and you activate them and you go ahead and reroll whatever the thing that you're looking for. It lets you target farm a little bit better. And again, you're going to have a lot easier time in progressing if you want legendary potential, because you have such an easier time getting it. Because going from 6 to 8 is huge. I mean, we're talking a lot of people maybe will just get to level 90-ish, and then they're like, I'm going to make a new character. And honestly, that's a little bit more fun. If you've ever played, let's say, Diablo 2, the difference between a character that's 90 and 99, it takes a huge amount of time. Most people, they're not going to hit 99 in, let's say, Diablo 2. I've played Diablo 2 for many years, and I had friends play thousands of hours, and they never had a 99 character, because it just takes way too long, and there's not a huge thing that you're going to get once you hit level 100. There's no special insane loot box that kind of comes out, or like anything special. So a lot of people will be relatively satisfied at, I would say, rank 6. Like once you get to like 8 and 9, like these are going to take a very, very long time. So that's like the best pro with the Circle of Fortune. You can kind of target farm things. It's still random at the end of the day, and you still need to actually use the loot filter. And that pretty much sums up what I wanted to go ahead and talk about for like the pros and the cons of each one. But I'm curious to know if there's anything that I left out that you guys think is really important to take into consideration when selecting them. But you guys asked, which one do I think is better? And the answer is, if I want to min-max and get the best of the best, Merchant's Guild. The other one I think is a lot more fun to engage with, because going back and listing items and doing the price checking thing, it's a nightmare. So what I've been doing, you can see I've sold a bunch of items. I just list whatever I can whenever I have currency. I just throw it down, sell it for 50, 100,000. I just keep it pushing. If it has legendary potential, I put 100,000. If it's just like, I literally pick up a bunch of purples via my loot filter for the good bases. I have a video that goes over a bunch of the best bases. Like for example, the Jade Dice is whatever. I like the Ancient Coins. Ancient Coins can roll from 10% to 100% on the implicit for like crit strike chance. So I look at those and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and list them over there. Unfortunately, implicits are kind of more difficult to deal with in terms of like searching, because that's not an option. You just search for the prefixes or suffixes in the game. So there is just a bunch of nightmare stuff that, like, if you're not like really willing to put in the time with the Merchant's Guild, that it becomes a long process of sitting here waiting, going here and going back and forth, and you're not playing the game. I think Circle of Fortune is much better designed for majority of the players, because it's fun to engage with and you can kind of target farm, and it's way more exciting to get that awesome drop than like, oh man, I gotta sit here and farm for like 30 hours then I can finally get it, or whatever the case may be. But anyways, that's the pros, that's the cons. Let me know, guys, which one you guys chose. I obviously am going to be doing both of them, but at the end of the day, I personally prefer Merchant's Guild, even though it's going to take a lot longer. I know at the end of the day, I'm going to get what I want. But anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it if you're new here, and you want to see more Last Epoch and more action RPG content very soon. Hit subscribe to the bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.